What is that movie called?
Coco.
No, the other one I like.
Coco.
No. What about Mary Bell? We don't talk about Bruno. I almost said Bruno.
What is that movie called?
Help. What is it called, Jeff? Hello everyone, welcome back to Foster the Meeple, a channel all about
board games
and
board gamey things.
Exactly. We're back again today with another video, believe it or not. This is
Shocking.
apparently what we do multiple times a week.
Are we back with another video?
We're back with another video.
You say that every time.
Yeah.
And it's just assumed.
Maybe not. There's some things
it's like
that
walking
I always
into
think,
a room and being like, I'm here.
There's some things,
It's like, well,
that
yes,
I always
we
think
know
are
because
assumed.
we can see you.
And people never assume them. People just don't assume.
Anytime Jamie doesn't say, we're here with a new video or another video, that means we're not actually here.
We're not here with another video. If you don't hear me say it, it's an illusion.
Yep.
And we don't talk about Bruno.
I can't believe you didn't know what that movie was called.
It's Encanto, Jeff. All right, we are here to do a video about the games that have dropped from our top 50 board games of all time. If you haven't seen...
We're not going to say where it dropped to, right?
No, because I'll tell you why. So number one, if you haven't seen our top 50 board game series of all time, you should first probably watch that because this will be spoilers.
Clarify. Our objective.
Oh, objective.
Top 50 best games of all time.
Yes, and thank you to the people in the comments of our videos, our top 50s, where they explained to us what objective and subjective meant. We meant objective, of course. Mm-hmm. These are objective lists. Anyways, these are the games that have fallen off of our top 50. We might explain kind of some of the reasons why or whatever. We did one of these videos last year as well. But if you're curious, well, where did they land? And if they landed within our top 70 or 70 to 51, you can go over to Patreon. And those videos are going to be coming soon to Patreon. Mm-hmm. We need to film those.
Yes, we do.
So we still need to film them. Anyways, but they're going to be there. We both have some games that have fallen from grace.
You said you have more than me?
I actually don't know. I think we might be pretty equal, but we'll see.
Jamie was accusing me of.
Well, I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. When I did Jeff's and I started to do mine, I was like, whoa. She's getting a drink. Juno was so sick last night. I was having a freak,
Jamie
let me tell you.
Losing it. I wasn't because she's done this a bunch before.
She ate something from the yard that she shouldn't have eaten. And then decided that everything from her body needed to be evacuated.
Yeah, it was a good 2 hours of
vomit. So the first one, and I'm going to kind of go from top down.
Sure. And
we'll just kind of go back and forth. But the first one that has dropped off my list, my number 48 last year, which was Orleans. And I think this is just a matter of there are so many good games that we got played.
Absurd.
And I don't think we physically got it to the table.
Yes, we did.
Did we?
Yep.
This past year? Anyways, I honestly have no explanation.
Sure did.
Just know that I do love this game.
Not enough.
Not enough. And it may have fallen somewhere else. Who's to say? But Orleans did dip off of my list. And I said, you know what I said to it? I said, dip off, Orleans.
C'est la vie, man.
I want to call you Orleans. What are you going to do about it? Nothing. All right, Jeff. The first one to drop.
Do you want to call it Orleans? No, not at all. My first game that fell off my list is Baseball Highlights 2045. There's one reason why this fell off the list. Because Jamie does not like it. And so I don't get to play it.
Untrue. I like it. It's just very confusing.
It's not, though.
Makes me feel like an idiot.
It's not confusing. Jamie can't understand the base running, which I can kind of get. But see, I will do the base running for her. She doesn't even need to worry about it. But then she just doesn't know how she's going.
You're just basically playing the game for me.
Anyway, Baseball 2045 is still a game I very, very much enjoy. Just isn't one I get played. I think it might be playing it at Level Up because Ben, I think, possibly wants me to teach it.
We've made a lot of commitments.
Ben's made a lot of commitments. Oh my God, that guy's like, will you teach me this? And they're all like 3-hour games. And I'm like, that's not happening. Anyway, Baseball Highlights, great game, just don't get to play it.
The next one that has dipped off my list was my number 47 last year, and that's Tapestry.
You always spell it.
Like tapas.
Like tapas.
Tapas.
It's an E.
I don't care. I hate spelling. I think it's stupid. I just like to say things. Tapestry fell off my list, which I actually find kind of interesting because I feel like my love for Tapestry actually grew this year.
Yeah, agreed.
But I think what happened is there was actually quite a few new games that got added to my top 50, which happens every year.
You can't just keep saying that, though. That's your excuse for all of these.
I know. But I actually, it was very surprising to me because we played Tapestry so much more this year. And I really like this game. But it just didn't hit my top 50 for whatever reason. Who's to say?
Next one for me, easy. Next one for me is Distant Plane. And it's a GMT coin game. A much bigger GMT coin game than, say, like Cuba Libre. Much more involved. And I just don't get to play it. I don't know anyone else that has a copy of this game, so it's not even something I can really play, like, well, I guess Rodney does, but asynchronously. This one, I think, is just going to constantly kind of, anytime I play a coin game, like
it's automatically going to shoot into your top 50.
It's immediately going to be considered in my top 50 because I think it's one of my favorite systems. Like, for example, I'm playing a game of Andean Abyss right now with Sam online, and I'm already like, this is incredible.
Is it coin?
Yeah. I think it was the first coin game.
Wow.
And very similar to Cuba. But anyway, I think this one's just going to constantly bounce around. If I get to play it, great. It's probably going to be my top 50. The odds that I'm going to get a chance to play this game are probably pretty limited. But I really like Distant Plane.
Pretty slim.
It's a big boy.
Okay, the next one for me actually fell off of both of our lists. But it was my number 46 last year, and it was Jeff's number 41 last year. And that's Three Ring Circus. We were pretty high on this when we played it. Yeah, I still really enjoy it too. But here's what I think happened. Like, we played it, and then we never played it again.
I know.
And there's so many people who poo-poo on that game.
Yeah, it does get poo-pooed a lot.
To the point where we were kind of, I don't know, maybe it like, we haven't played it because of that, but it almost makes me want to show more people. It makes me want to show more people it. To be like, no, this is a good game. But we did not play it again this year.
I don't know. I can't remember why people were kind of down on it.
Yeah.
I think it was just kind of like, yeah, it's fine.
Right.
But
we really liked it. I like the theme.
I think maybe some people have an issue with like the Barnum stuff,
Maybe.
Which is, that's valid.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really like that game. I really like the theme too.
Yeah, it's really pretty. So, and we generally,
I think let's be honest.
Yeah.
We are products of what we've played.
Yes. We didn't play something
outside
for a year,
of some kind of like games that are really just our
ingrained within. Yeah.
But like a game like that is how lately have we played it? I think is going to depend on where it falls.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and I actually find this is kind of like a really interesting thing because we always love Devere games. We're real high on Devere, like anytime a new game comes out, but I don't think either of us have any Devere games in our top 50, which I think is really interesting because I love White Castle.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed Salton Sea more than Jeff did, that's for sure. We really like Three Ring Circus. We really like Mille Fiori.
I think there's a reason for that, and I'm going to explain. Devere hits, some of the Devere's heavy games hits a nice heavy niche for me, but it doesn't hit that far end of like Root, Arcs.
Yeah.
Like it's not heavy enough to compete with those. Similarly for you, it doesn't hit like they don't hit hard enough. Like they're all great.
Yeah.
Like the consistency of Devere games is second to none.
Yeah, they're always great.
But I don't think any of them really like
trigger something in the brain.
That extra piece of like, oh, this is one of the best games I've played.
Yeah.
Like they're all very good. But I would argue none of them are like something I'm like itching to get out and play.
Yeah, I think that's fair. So the next one then for me that wasn't on Jeff's list, we just did that one as a combo because it fell off of both of ours, but is Memoir 44. And I just think Undaunted has totally taken over this kind of like realm. I know that they're very different.
Yeah,
they're both kind of war themed. Memoir 44 is a bit more of like dice rolling, whereas Undaunted is more card play. But like for some reason, I look at them in kind of a similar light, and I'm always going for Undaunted over Memoir 44.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. Again, I would argue Memoir 44 is just lighter. It's a very luck-based game. And to play that in person is very finicky.
Yeah.
Because there's so many troops that you have to put out. And when it comes down to just being a luck-based game, to have to set up all of those troops and put like the barbed wire out and the fences and all the tanks and all the things, it's an experience. Mm-hmm. But Undaunted does all of that much simpler and honestly just more in depth, more strategic, and easier to set up and play.
Yeah. Is Memoir 44 the system of all like the Battle of Westeros and
Command and
Colors?
It's technically a Command and Colors based system.
Which I do really enjoy that system, and we've actually played. We've played Battle of Westeros. We've played Battle Lore, and we've played Memoir 44. I think they're all great. All of them, Memoir 44 is still my favorite of that set.
I just want to be clear. GMT, I think, was the first to utilize. I could be wrong here, but I think GMT utilized. They have a full line of Command and Colors games, and then Memoir and those other types kind of adapted that.
Got it. Next one for you.
Next one up for me is Sea Salt and Paper. Again, I play that game probably more than a lot of other games. I still love Sea Salt and Paper. It's just a light card game that is going to be very hard to get into my top 50 just because the longer I'm in this hobby, the more I have identified that I love very heavy strategic war-based games. Mm-hmm. I love war games. I love asymmetry. This is not that. This is as far away from that as you can get.
Yeah.
So I love Sea Salt and Paper, and I'll play it anytime someone wants to. It has its perfect place in this hobby, and a perfect place in my gameplay. It's just not.
Yeah, I think what happens every year is we discover a new card game that we get high on, and we're like, oh, this is the best. Like Trick and Snipers, Fantasy Realms, Scout, Sea Salt and Paper, and they're all cycling through. The next one for me is Age of Comics, and this one, it's easy to know why it fell off. We haven't played it. We just haven't played it. And it's not something that sits at the top of my mind. Mm-hmm. I really like it, though, like a lot still. And I don't even know kind of where it fell within my list. And to be honest with you, I don't even remember ranking it. I must have ranked it. But anyways, that's the only explanation I can think of for this is that we just haven't gotten it back to the table.
Fair.
Yeah. Which is going to be for most of these. This one's shocking to me.
Yeah, next one for me is Castles of Burgundy. I just think I've played it so much. Mm-hmm. It's a staple. And I have to give it credit for what it is, wherein I can play it that many times and still care about it.
Sure.
Because I do burn out on games. Like, I'll give you an example of a game I've pretty much burnt out on, and I don't really care about playing it anymore, and that's Ark Nova. Like, I've played it so much that I'm just like, I've seen this, and I don't care anymore.
And we've never played with the expansion, if people are curious.
Yes, just space. Castles of Burgundy, I've played 4 or 5 times the amount of Ark Nova, but I haven't felt that. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate that about this game. But again, like I've just played it so much that I just don't think about it the same way.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It dropped for me too. It didn't drop off my list, but it dropped pretty significantly from last year on my list.
Yeah.
Next one for me is actually kind of a sad one, and I'm surprised this isn't still in my top 50, and that's the Oracle of Delphi.
Yeah, same. I don't think I rank that either.
But like, yeah, I'm just like kind of going through these. I'm like, I don't remember ranking that. Now maybe I did because maybe it's like.
I mean, that is the fault sometimes of utilizing a digital platform to do it, right?
Yeah, yeah. But like the Oracle of Delphi is a game that we love, and when we first discovered it, we were playing it like. We wanted to show people how to play it. We wanted to like share it because it's an older game that plays so well. And I do think that if I didn't rank this, it probably would have ended up back in my top 50. But we haven't played it in a little while now. I would like to get it back to the table. But this is such a great game.
Yes.
It definitely, if nothing else, deserves to be in my top 100. That's for sure.
Yeah, I don't think that one's on my list, but I would agree that's a game that I would need to sit down and consider it because I do feel like that's a game that is close, very close. Next up for me is Scout. I actually think Jamie just nailed it. I didn't think about it that way, but she's right. Every year, there's a new card game that comes out that we just go head over heels for, and we play it over and over and over again. It was Scout one year, It was Sea Salt and Paper, another. This year, I'm obsessed with Trick and Snipers. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure next year there'll be another one.
Yeah.
Because they keep coming out. Like, even fishing. Like, we don't have it yet, but I bet you when we get it, it's going to be another one that I'm freaking out about and always wanting to play. That's just the nature of these small box card games. There's always one that comes out every year that's just an absolute banger. Mm-hmm. And then that's the one we're focused on.
All right, next for me is Brian Boru, which is a game that I love. We've had one play of it this year where people weren't like super into it, but I think even then I'm still having fun. Like Brian Boru is like area control trick taking. It's really it's a clever, unique, fun game, but the problem with Brian Boru is it's a minimum 3 players, so it's not something that Jeff and I can just get to the table, and it does seem to be a little bit divisive in terms of people who really like it or really don't like it.
The last play of it, we played with people who were very mad about it.
Yeah, but then we've also played with people who were really high on it, and so I think for that and just for most games, like when you play games where everybody's super into it and it really reignites your love for it. I still love this game though. I think it's beautiful and I would play it anytime somebody wants to play it.
I think this is just a quick little caveat here or whatever. This is a really good example of what we always talk about. And it's really we talk about games in general and our enjoyment of them. Mm-hmm. And I don't think people appreciate or consider the variable that is the players around the table when they
100%.
When they judge games. I've played a really bad game of Brian Boru. Mm-hmm. I've played one of the best gaming experiences I've ever had playing Brian Boru. Mm-hmm. Similarly, I've seen people comment to us all the time and be like, "We played Fuji Flush and it was really boring," and I would be like, "Well, it probably wasn't the game."
Yeah.
And I'm not judging anyone by that, but it's
people play games differently.
Exactly.
People
and I'm
look for different experiences.
And it's again, that's fine. Fuji Flush was boring for you. You didn't like it. That's great. No problem. I don't care. But I just wish people would be a little bit more cognizant of what the people around the table are doing to the game. Mm-hmm. It's not the game's fault in that instance.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
It could even be time of day that you played it. Or you at a convention setting something up at midnight and you're all exhausted and a little bit cranky and you play. And you're like, that game sucks. And it probably didn't. We joke about objectively versus subjectively, but I do think objectively most games are good.
Agreed.
And it all depends on this is the Zoo Vadis is probably one of the best examples. I hate that game. I understand, though, that is an objectively a good game for the right player group.
Correct.
I'm just not that person. So I might joke around and be like, that game sucks, but I don't actually think it sucks. Yeah. I just think it sucks for me.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? And I think, not to, again, go on this big dialogue about it, but that's always the extra piece I think we need to apply to things.
Yes.
For me. Mm-hmm. People in the comments will be like, well, how is this not on your list? And it's like, well, I don't like it.
Not good for me.
It's not good for me,
Totally.
But anyway, okay. Next one up for me is a bit of a shocker because I still I will pipe for this game all the time.
Jeff's piping it.
And that's
piping it hard.
Skull King. This is, I think, actually a perfect next game to talk about because this is a perfect example of a game that can either hit or miss
100%.
Completely. Skull King is, every time I play it, I'm actually shocked it's not in my top 15.
I am too, actually.
That is probably one I would have to maybe reassess at some point. But Skull King is a trick-taking game that has provided me some of the best gaming experiences of my entire journey in this hobby. It is a very raucous, yelly, pirate-themed trick-taking game. It's got some uniqueness in the way it scores, and it's really it's all about betting the right amount of hands and trying to screw other people over, and you're yelling at each other, and people
banging on the table
before you bet, and people will start targeting you because it's well, Jeff keeps bidding 0 tricks. We got to make sure he wins a trick or he's going to keep scoring all these points. But I've also played this game where people will just bounce completely off of it.
Yes.
And I don't understand it, but I understand how it can happen because it's just not for them. I love Skull King, and I think that is probably one that is so far the most shocking that didn't hit my top 50. But again, I think it's just a product of like card games are going to be tough to crack.
Do you know who hates Skulking?
Who?
Juno.
Juno hates Skulking.
It's her least favorite game of all time.
Skulking might be, because we are doing Juno's top games of all time.
Yeah.
Juno, I think Skulking would be might be the last place game.
Yeah, I
she
think
hates
so.
Skulking.
She hates it. Okay, the next one on my list is Three Sisters, and I think I still love Three Sisters, but I do think like I haven't gotten it to the table because I honestly don't know why I haven't gotten it to the table. There's a bunch of other flip 'em rights that have kind of come out, and actually now I haven't played it solo yet, but I think Fliptown kind of ekes out Three Sisters.
There's another game that I'm thinking of.
Tend.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, and that's the other thing. Like we didn't rank any prototypes or anything in our top 50, but
Tend would be in both of our top 50s. I think.
And I think Tend would take over Three Sisters' place.
Tend will be in my top 50 next year. I already know that. Like,
yes.
It would have been again. We didn't rank prototypes, so we couldn't rank Tend.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's amazing. It's so good. And I do think like I played it and there is a part of my head that's like, do I need to play Three Sisters anymore? But I do still really love Three Sisters. I love the theme and I typically will play it solo because it is a little bit too cascading combo-y for Jeff. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Tend took over.
That's the game. Whenever I mention a game that's too combo-y for me,
he's thinking
that is the one I'm thinking about.
Or what about Hadrian's Wall?
I don't mind that one.
That's crazy because that one is so combo-y.
It could be the theme too. I don't know.
Maybe.
Anyway, next one up for me is a Stonemaier classic, and that is
Whoops.
That is Viticulture. Again, another game I would play any freaking time someone wants to play it. It's a great worker placement game. There's just other worker placement games that I think are objectively better.
For you.
For me. And a couple of those were on my list. So that's just it. I have a ton of appreciation for Viticulture. It was one of the first worker placement games I even played and really showed me what that system can look like. I love Viticulture. Yeah. Just not enough.
Not enough. It's on my top 50. Okay, next up for me is Black Sonata, which is a solo-only game that I do still love. I love Black Sonata. Didn't get it to the table last year. I think other solo games have been kind of hitting my table a little bit more. And even if I did continue to play it, I don't know if it would crawl back in or not. I definitely think it should sit within my top 100 because I really enjoy it. But like when I first played it, because it's so unique, it's a like solo like hidden movement game, which is really unique and it's really cool the way that it plays. So I love it for what it is.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right. Next up for me, we talked about, I think, pretty at length. So I don't feel like I need to go in this again. Go watch the top 50. This game came up. Stardew Valley is the next one that fell outside of my top 50, and it's for a specific reason. We play it at 2-player, and I find it is completely impossible to play at 2-player. Mm-hmm. And we've gotten some suggestions on...
Lots of good suggestions.
Lots of really good suggestions on host ruling and stuff of Stardew. If I had the opportunity to play Stardew at 3-player consistently, it would be in my top 50. Mm-hmm. I think it is great at 3.
Yeah.
And I love it. I love Stardew Valley, the IP. I love the video game. I love the board game. It's just... It feels a little bit broken at 2-player.
Yeah.
It's just so hard that the enjoyment gets kind of sucked out of it.
Yeah.
And we've had to do this for other cooperative games. Mm-hmm. Like I think primarily of Mansions of Madness, which some of those scenarios get so impossible that you actually have to
give yourself an extra action.
Yourself an extra action in order to even complete it because it's like basically impossible otherwise.
We're pro house rule.
Yeah, I'm not I like a challenge, but I don't like a challenge insofar that I'm constantly being defeated.
Yeah.
I don't like roguelikes for that reason in video games, like Demon Souls and all those games I don't like because I find them too punishing. Mm-hmm. And I don't want my board games to feel that way either. And Stardew Valley feels like that at 2-player. Like our last play of that, we got to a point where we still had, I think, a season and a half of actions to take.
Yeah,
but we already knew.
We're like, we can't.
We already knew at that point that we were not going to hit the goals.
Yeah.
So that's why it fell out.
Yeah.
But if we were able to play that 3 and 4 consistently, I think it would jump back up in my top 50.
I'd like to try it with some of the house rule suggestions. Like some people said that they start with all of their bundles face up so they know what they're working towards, but then to complete them, they just have to pay an extra heart, which I think is a really good suggestion. And I still want to try it solo. Mm-hmm. But there is one person who's like, I play it solo 4-handed, like with all of the different roles. So... Yeah. The next one for me is Ghost Stories, another game that I love and I really want to get to the table again, but we haven't played it in like 2-3 years now. But I really, really love this game. But yeah, I mean, after 3 years, you haven't played a game and it obviously is going to start to slip. This is another game that is extremely challenging. It's like a badge of honor to win it, and I'm determined at some point to win this game.
Yeah, same. I don't give enough appreciation, I think, to tower defense games.
Yeah.
And this kind of plays similarly to a tower defense game. Mm-hmm. I need to revisit that because I very much like tower defense games.
Actually, I would love to play Ghost Stories with Ben and Sarah.
Yeah.
Because we've only played it at 2, and I do think it's probably maybe less challenging at 4. Maybe not.
Next one up for me is another trick taker.
Yeah, last year was the year of trick takers.
It was, yeah. And that's Null and Nishtig. I think I kind of piped this game up the most of anyone else I know. Maybe other than like
Matthew from This Game is Broken.
And I don't think anyone else likes this game as much as I do. Which is
really, really mean.
Which is problematic because it's a very, very mean trick-taking game and it's very group-dependent. It's another game that requires the group to really be into that sort of thing.
Yep.
And that group just doesn't really exist for me locally. Why this was on the list last year was because that we do have that, like we played it with Rodney and Christy who were very much into this type of game.
Yeah, we had a great time.
But we don't have access to them all the time. So again, this is a product of just not having it played. I did play it again at BGG-Con.
Yeah, we brought it somewhere.
I can't remember which convention I brought it to, but it didn't hit. It was just kind of like, yeah, that was fine.
Yeah.
And so that's probably why. I just don't have the right group to play this with. It really requires people to buy into the meanness of card games. And, it has its own little place there, but I have to find the right group to play it with.
And the right goop, honestly.
And the right goop, yeah.
Next up for me is Fantasy Realms. Fantasy Realms was a staple for us.
Small box card game.
Small box card game. But Fantasy Realms was like the small box card game for us for years.
Two years
plus,
ago.
Yeah. And so this was always our go-to game. Yep. And honestly, like
it's still sitting right by our...
This is still a game that it's like, what do you want to play? We need something that we know really well. Let's pull out Fantasy Realms. I still love this game. Mm-hmm. It's just, it is that small box card game that is always going to hold a special place for me, but maybe just not within this list.
Yep. This is I would love to actually bring that to... Do you know what I'd like to do with Level Up? Mm. Let's bring the games we've talked about, but I would love to grab some of those small box card games we used to love and haven't played in a while and just bring those, because then we're forced to be like, hey, like we have a quick game, you won't play Fantasy Realms? Perfect.
Yeah.
Then we don't bring Sea Salt and Paper because we always play that. Do you know what I mean?
Always do that, yeah.
Bring some stuff that we don't normally play.
Definitely.
All right, next up for me is, I think echoes kind of something Jamie brought up in our top 50 about Villainous. So this is Star Wars Villainous, which is my preferred version of Villainous. Yeah. Villainous just got to this weird spot with us after our most recent tournament. Now, that being said, we don't play a lot of Star Wars Villainous for some reason. I don't really know why, to be honest.
I prefer Disney.
Well, that might be it too, but we probably should play it because I would prefer the Star Wars one. But anyway, Villainous as a whole has kind of dropped off for both of us because we've started to identify some of the flaws at two-player. This is another game like Stardew Valley that we've identified there's some issues with certain characters.
At certain player counts.
And primarily at 2. Some don't play well at higher.
Yeah.
And we're in this hiatus with Villainous where we're trying to establish how to play Villainous optimally moving forward. I still love Villainous and I still love Star Wars Villainous, But until we can kind of like
get
that back, there's just certain characters we need to basically be like, hey, if we're not playing this at 3+, we're not playing as those characters.
Yeah.
Because what ends up happening in Villainous is some of those characters are not designed to be played at 2-player. Because in a 2-player game, you can fate back and forth constantly. And those characters will never win. Because in a higher than 2-player count, someone can't be fated twice in a row.
Yeah.
You basically always will get a turn, at least, to be able to do something without getting fated. And those characters rely on being able to have that happen.
Yeah.
And it can't at 2-player. So they become kind of broken at 2-player. And as we've played, we've identified that. And so Villainous is kind of taking a back seat right now.
Yeah.
Just while we assess all of that and get back to it this year. And I'm assuming this time next year, after the tournament this year, it'll be back in my top 50.
Hopefully. Okay, next one for me is Root.
I mean, whatever, dude.
Well, it didn't slip very far. I'm not going to say where it landed, but it didn't slip very far.
You don't have to love Root, though.
I know. The thing is, I really enjoy Root, but I need to play it physically. And I really enjoy when we play it physically. I don't think it's good for me to play the app. Number one, because I don't take my turns. Number two, because everybody that I play with knows it way better than me.
That is a major problem of Root.
And I know well the cats, Marquis the cat, and the birds. And I don't know how to do anything else. And that is a problem. But the last time that we played it physically, we played with Zach. It was his first time playing, and Matt had played maybe a couple times, and then Jeff kind of like held himself back a little bit, and then so I felt like it was a bit more of an even playing field. But I really enjoy Root. Like, I really like the gameplay of Root, and I want to play it more. It's just I don't know who I can play it with.
You're 120% right. Root. We talk about games that I think require an equal playing field when you're first exploring them, or at least someone that knows how to play the game
and can understand how to draw back.
It's not important to win in those situations, because some people don't have the ability to throttle that back. I'm excited to play Root when or if Ben and Sarah move here, because I think you three will all kind of be on the same playing field, and I can just sit back and be like, and just watch you play and provide help. Suggestions and be like, hey, maybe you want to look at this. Yeah. And then we can start building up our group to being able to get competitive. And being like, hey, Jamie, this is how the otters work. And just letting you play through it and being like, okay, this is how they work and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. That's what I'm most excited for them. I'm really excited for them to move here so we can I can uncover Root for all of you, because I think you will love it. Yeah,
and I do when I play it, I always have a good time.
The fact that you love Cuba Libre to the degree you do.
Exactly, I know.
I know you will love Root. I think it will crack your top 10. No, I was like, I just talked about that one.
No.
Next one up for me is a campaign game. I've talked about my experience with campaign games. And this one I think would probably go back in my top 50 if we ever played it, and that's Star Wars Imperial Assault. I'm still hanging on to Journeys in Middle-earth. I think that's the other kind of like campaign game that I'm really just still holding on feelings about. But I like the IP of Lord of the Rings more than Star Wars. I still love Star Wars, but I love Lord of the Rings infinitely more. And that's a product of why Imperial Assault has fallen out of my top 50, because
Imperial Assault.
I've come to the realization that campaign games are just too difficult. They're too difficult to table for us. True. I would like for that to change. I say that every year. It never does.
Never does.
I don't know if it ever will, but that's a product of why it's not my top 50.
Between the two, I also prefer the Lord of the Rings IP, but I prefer the Imperial Assault system.
The dice rolling.
Yeah, it's dice rolling versus card flipping, which I prefer the dice.
In both of those games, I love the app assist, where it's like in Imperial Assault, you'll play a mission, and then you're like, oh, which planet do we want to go to? And maybe while you're on the route to that planet, a special Star Wars character is going to pop up. And then if you do certain things, you can add them to your party. It's video games in a board game, and I love it. It's just, it doesn't get played.
That's it for me, Jeff. You got one more. You got a lot of explaining.
Yeah, the last one up for me is actually, I think, a similar one to Skull King.
Probably should fall.
Probably should be somewhere in my top 50, honestly, and that's Wonderland's War. I don't have a good reason. I honestly don't. I think this would probably be one that I would need to look at, because I think it should be. I honestly, point blank, it probably should be in my top 50. I absolutely adore this game. It's got everything I like in games. Mm-hmm. It's area control. It's got a great theme. It's got a great production, and it's got banter around the table. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. That should be in my top 50. That's definitely just an oversight of my ratings.
Great game. But that's the point. Our lists shift, I would say, like, not like an insane amount, but there's usually like a good 10 to 15 games that we like are so hyped on, mm-hmm. and they get in our list and we're like, yeah, top 50, best game ever. And then the next year they're just gone. Yep. And that's going to happen because we're very excitable people. And like when we play something, we're like, I love this. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't mean that we don't still love that game, but we just found something that's kind of like snuck in.
Yeah, I think my core games are starting to kind of be there.
Yeah, like our top 10s are mm-hmm. generally like, every year Root's going to be on Jeff's list, and Great Western Trail.
Every year Root's going to be number one.
Final Girl's going to be on mine.
Do you think Root will ever be knocked off my number one?
I'll be curious.
Do you think Final Girl will ever be Root?
I don't know. It's really hard because the thing about like both Root and Final Girl is there's new content always. Always new content.
I know they just released new content for Root, so that's going to hold it over for another.
Yeah, like Series 3 Final Girl just came out, and they're not going to stop making Final Girl as long as people are enjoying it and playing it, and same with Root. And so, like, how do you compete with that?
I have a sneaking suspicion this is going to be the final expansion for Root. But they said that about Marauders, I feel.
The thing is, like, what does Cole Whirly do next?
Yeah.
That maybe overtakes Root.
Molly House could.
But I mean, Root's got cute animals, so you can't really beat that, in my opinion. Best kind of war game. Anyways, those are the games that have dropped off of our top 50 this year. Once again, if you're curious to know where they may have fallen, we are doing our 70 to 51 on Patreon. It's probably not up yet, but it will be coming soon. So if you're interested in hearing more about that, definitely go and check out our Patreon. But I think that's everything that we have for you all today. Let us know in the comments below. Is anything kind of surprising to you or any thoughts that you might have? But just know we do know the difference between objectively and subjectively. And we meant objectively, obviously. How could we be wrong?
Correct.
Exactly. That's everything we have. If you're interested in buying board games like any of the many that we booted off our top 50, you should first start by checking your friendly local gaming store. And for us, that is
the Boardroom Game Cafe.
Heck yeah. And if you like what you see,
please subscribe.
We hope to see you again soon. And now we say goodbye. Goodbye.
Later days.
I have the song Bop stuck in my head. Bop, doo, bop. What is that movie called?
Coco.
No, the other one I like.
Coco.
No. What about Mary Bell? We don't talk about Bruno. I almost said Bruno.
What is that movie called?
Help. What is it called, Jeff? I gotta look it up because that's gonna drive me crazy.
Mary Bell.
What about Mary Bell?
How can we think of all of this?
We don't talk about... And Canto.
Come on, Jamie. It's in Canto.
We don't talk about Bruno.
I knew that the whole time.
No.
You don't need this?
Nope. But you're downloading stuff. You need it. Oh, hopefully you didn't cut it off. Well,
the second.
Baby Bell.
Oh, God, that's nice. How much do you love that sweater?
Do you know what I'm playing?
It looks comfy.
It is comfy.
It's Mario.
Yum.
It's interesting to me that you're fine with dog puking, but not human puking.
I mean, it's not enjoyable for me.
Sure.
But I think mentally, I think, well, I can't catch it because it's a dog. But then remember last night when I started being like, what if she has norovirus? And I was Googling, like, can dogs get norovirus? Can you catch norovirus from a dog? And it's unlikely, but it is possible.
We got to bring that hand vacuum here and clean this table up. Oh, we also need to confirm Tuesday with Matt. Are we going to play games with Matt on Tuesday?
He said something about Thursday, and I'm like,
I can't do Thursday. We're gone.
We can't do Thursday. We're gone.
And it's also date night.
It's date night. Thursday's date night.
What are we gonna do? It's date night in New Jersey.
We'll have a group date.
Mm.
All right. Let's get started. That was such a tangent that we just went on. And
I don't know how to even read this.
What do you mean?
How am I supposed to know what I'm reading?
This is not your list. This is yours.
Oh, where do I start?
You'll start here, and you'll work your way down. Of course.
So it's already there.
They're starred. The ones that dropped off have stars.
Okay, gotcha.
It's first time here.
Weird system. What?
What?
It says it's 50.
That was 2024. We just did 2025. I haven't written in your new ones yet.
I don't understand the way Jamie has this.
Jeff doesn't get systems.
No, I get systems.
Not like
your
me.
Systems are not systems. Yours are.
That's your list from 2022,
yours are
2023, 2024.
Why would you go
2025.
Why would you go this way with it?
What do you mean?
Everyone everyone would go 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025.
Because I like having the numbers next to it.
Ugh.
It makes sense. Trust.